was trying to record this for my reference so that I can prove to you later that I talked to you about it. Where is the microphone? Right there, so it can hear me. Okay, so when we were on site, I mentioned to you guys that you can't put a forest of columns into the riverbed, but many of you, when you turn in your diagrams, showed exactly that. You showed a forest of columns, right, coming down into the riverbed, which can trap debris. I asked you guys to look at the PCH bridge, right, and I believe I was standing with you when we started to kind of estimate the sizes of things. So we came to the conclusion that the PCH bridge was, I think it was like 12 feet over the walkway or 10 feet over the walkway. And we came up with a conclusion that the beams that were going across it were about, maybe 4 or 5 feet deep. They were big, all right? So those are things that you guys should be taking into consideration as you start to do your diagrams. Your structural section should look something like this and this, okay? So what we have here is, first of all, number one, we show the riverbed, right? Have to show that. You can't, if you don't show that, then there's no point in doing the section. The second thing we show is the lowest level of support, which is the 2 points where the riverbed comes up to land, and the 3 or 4, I don't remember how many there are, walls that are in the river. Okay? The next thing above that is a very large beam. Let's call it 4 or 5 feet deep. All right? And if I believe you guys walked over there, right? There's probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 of them going across PCH underneath it. But the next thing down is this big beam, and that beam collects all of the littler ones that are going to be above it. Okay? These, we've determined, are essentially 26 feet apart or something like that, right? Columns. These. How far apart are those?
26 feet.
26 feet? Okay. So you can't have columns 26 feet apart coming down to the riverbed. Okay, there are trees that go down that riverbed that are probably bigger than that. Second diagram that you guys should have is the one which is a transverse section through this thing, right? And it should look something like that. What's this?
Ground. That's the
What's that? Huh?
The structure.
This is that. The wall. Remember, they were curved? Okay? Then what are these right here?
The beams.
Which ones?
The big one.
And then the rest of that structure goes up above it. How many of these beams you need, right, correlates to what's happening above it, right? How many of you figured out how many of these beams you need? It's not about, it is exactly related to your diagram. I don't know how many it is. It's not about, it's exact. So it's exact, the amount is exact. And it may not be that they're exact all the way across. In plan view, right? When you're looking at this in plan, if that's the edge of the riverbed, and these things are going across, you're going to have a wall, and a wall. Right? And if you have a long skinny structure that goes across here, you'll have a beam that goes across. And if you have more columns here, you'll have another beam that goes across, and another beam, and another beam. But if you have the round structures or something off to the side over here, you're going to have more of these over here, and these walls will have to get longer. This is the expectation, is that you're actually figuring this out. Those little columns, right, that are not so little are falling right on top of this. Those large beams act to collect this upper structure and bring it down to those. Okay? So right now, immediately, I need you to take the information that I'm presenting here, right? I'm presenting it in section in one direction, section in another direction, and in plan. And I need you to redo your diagrams for structure so that they match this. Use the PCH bridge as an example. I even gave you guys images, right? I gave you a whole set of images. Use the PCH bridge as an example to start to determine the depth of this, how many of those walls there are. You're going to have to think in section, plan, and transverse section all at the same time. You got to go back and forth between them. It might help you to have to do this thing as a model. I don't know. Somehow you've got to figure out how you're going to get all of these loads down to this beam, and then from that beam down into those walls and those two end supports. You guys understand this? Okay. Then go ahead and stop that video.